Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We're going to go over this DraftKings main slate with the goal is to help you win some money. I know Taylor did that a couple days ago, had a fourth place finish, so that was pretty nice. And honestly, if you were in Discord, you might have had a chance to win too, because he was all over the Diamondbacks and both of the pitchers that he liked the most crushed. So it's kind of funny, exactly the guys that you handed out ended up being in your lineup, and it was a really nice day for you. That is goal, though. Obviously, we're going to break down this slate. If you want to get finalized pitcher picks and stacks, you can head to our Patreon. Just $5.99 a month to get access to that, as well as everything else we have to offer. We had some great picks for UFL. Once again, 5 slates in a row, undefeated in the core plays for MMA DFS. So be sure to take advantage of all that rolled into one cheap monthly price. All right, let's get down to it here. If this will let me go. Okay, so we got Colton Gordon taking on the Rays in Tampa Bay. Obviously not a friendly park for pitchers. Ryan Pepio taking on the Astros. I think for me personally, like this is, it's not a fun park to play the pitchers. I think Pepio at 7.8K though kind of stands out a little bit. Don't really love using him here against the Astros, but so far I'm either going Rays or Pepio. How about you?
Yeah, I think the Rays are maybe my favorite stack on the whole slate against Colton Gordon, making his second ever start. I don't think he's a bad pitcher, but he is a lefty. Didn't get a lot of whiffs in his first outing last week. Tampa Bay, while not a great offense, is pretty cheap. It's a good park for hitting, like you said. The righties are going to be the standouts here. Yandy Diaz, Christopher Morel, Junior Caminero, Danny Jansen behind the plate. I don't mind Brandon Lau, just a pretty good power hitter, even lefty-lefty. Don't think Josh Lowe will be in the lineup, but fine enough play if he is. Caballero is a pretty good value. So I love Tampa Bay. I think they're my favorite stack on the slate, given the salaries. And then I do think Pepio is a pretty good play. 7,800. He will spike some strikeouts every now and then. Not a great matchup for that against Houston, especially because Pepio has been kind of better against lefties. And as we know, Houston is essentially all right-handed these days. So not an ideal spot, but it's not an amazing pitching slate, and he's cheap. So I think we're going to have Sanchez and Coors being the chalk on DK at only 8K. And I think it's fine. I don't mind Pepio, though, as a pivot for 200 less.
Yeah, for me, it's just like an upside price play. Like I don't ever really like targeting Astros with pitchers because they don't strike out. And it is a dicey park. So I can certainly see anybody not, being super excited to play Pepio, but 7.8K for a guy who he can flash strikeout upside. I don't mind him. Just seems to me more like an SP2. Just a guy I definitely want to keep in my player pool. I have no interest on the other side of Colton Gordon. And I'm with you. I like the Rays. I do think like the Rays will be a little bit owned, but the fact that we do have Coors plus the Dodgers, I think the Rays are going to be flying enough under the radar that we don't need to worry about the ownership. Okay, so moving on here, we got the Orioles in Milwaukee taking on the Brewers. Dean Kramer taking on Milwaukee. He is struggling this year against lefties in a big way, so I do not mind the Brewers at all. I think Kramer's always viable because he can be a good real-life pitcher. I just don't see the upside there. I'd rather play the Brewers. Of course, the best thing to attack in this game is going to be Baltimore. They've been disappointing as a whole on the year, but we know that they can certainly swing those bats. 175 collective ISO, and they're facing something called a Quinn Priester. I know. I'm just kidding. I am a Brewers fan. I know who Priester is. But you know what? He's been really bad, specifically against lefties. And just Baltimore is a really talented offense. So I think I don't really like the pitching here. I'm going Baltimore, and then I do not mind Milwaukee at all, but Baltimore is the target.
Yeah. Not getting to the pitching, I think, Kramer is the better of the two, but he's been pretty bad this season.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee's not an amazing matchup, so I'm not really getting to him, not getting to Priester at all. I think he's maybe the worst pitching play on the slate. The bats are good. Like, I don't think Milwaukee or Baltimore is a priority, but the Orioles on paper still look good, even if they have underperformed pretty considerably. Priester is really nonsense against lefties, and the Orioles, while they've been bad, they still have quite a few lefties in the lineup, and the overall numbers for the offense are good, even if the runs aren't coming in. I do feel like they're just due to normalize. Like, I just think it's kind of been a small sample bad luck situation for them. So I do think they're a good stack. I don't think they're a priority for me as of now, because they are still kind of expensive. I'm prioritizing like the Phillies, who we'll get to, the Dodgers, The Diamondbacks, I think, even on the other side of the
Yeah.
LA game, are pretty good. So, Baltimore's okay. Milwaukee is good too. Cheaper stack. I'm not as enthused about picking on Kramer, who I do think over the long haul will, be a decent pitcher. But the numbers kind of speak for themselves. The lefties would be priorities like Turang, Yelich, the cheaper stuff. There's just not a lot of great stuff from the left side in that lineup. So maybe more of a mini stack on Milwaukee and a full stack on Baltimore type situation.
Agreed. All right, we got the White Sox hosting the Mariners. Luis Castillo against Chicago. I mean, he does struggle with lefties, but they don't have any lefties to scare you. I think Castillo looks like a pretty good play here. I think he's kind of expensive, though. I don't know what his price is at. Like, pretty sure it's
9.5.
9.5. So I don't really like the price, but you're getting a really good matchup there. So, and I think it's cold in Chicago, like 50 degrees or something. So everything does grade out pretty nicely for him. Davis Martin on the other side against the Mariners. I think you could certainly lean into the weather aspect and just kind of fade both offenses here. Probably what I will do, but Davis Martin is a guy we can attack. So if you want to get to the Mariners, you can. I'll just say like what you kind of were suggesting before. You got Coors, you got two really good offenses in the Dodgers game. You got the Athletics, you got the Rays. So like teams like the Orioles and even to a much lesser extent the Mariners, they're just going to fly under the radar. So they're more like GPP stacks. But Mariners still do look good here. I don't mind them if you get to them.
Yeah, I think GPPs are the only thing worth playing. So that's kind of the context we're using.
Sure.
I agree that Castillo is expensive, but it is a pretty non-threatening spot. Like you said, he struggled against lefties. The White Sox do not have them. They have Josh Palacios, Josh Rojas, Mike Tauchman, whatever. Like, that's pretty non-threatening. So while Castillo's been bad and he's expensive, it is not a great pitching slate. So I think it's an okay spot to get to him. Not super excited about it into ownership, but on this slate, I think it's okay. And then the Mariners, I love. I think, again, just kind of like Tampa Bay, they're one of the best stacks on the slate. They have a great matchup against Davis Martin. They get a big park upgrade, leaving Seattle for Chicago, even if it is cold. Still a pretty good hitter-friendly park. So lefties in general, Raleigh, Tellez, Jorge Polanco, Crawford at the top there, look pretty good. Martin's not a great strikeout guy against righties either, so no problem with J-Rod, Rosarena, things like that. So love Seattle. I think Castillo's fine, and that's about it.
Yep, agreed. All right, we got Guardians and the Twins in a game that could end up getting PPD. This one has the worst weather of the night, although it's been kind of downgraded slightly. So we'll see. Not really a spot I want to target because of that. Also, the pitching isn't really advantageous, I don't think. Like Logan Allen, don't want to do that. Twins have been kind of good. Also, Bailey Ober does project as one of the best pitchers of the slate, which kind of tells you all you need to know. The Guardians are not like really normally an offense I feel like excited to pick on. I feel like they're certainly capable. But honestly, just factoring in the weather concern, this whole game is a cross off for me. I think there's so many good options here outside of like Ober. I guess because it's a bad pitching slate. If the game is okay, I suppose I'd still keep Ober in my pitcher pool, but I'm not like super afraid to just cross him off.
Yeah, even with the game, the projected players in, I'm not really getting to anything. I'm not getting to Ober a ton. Like I'm getting to him more than Allen, but that's not a lot. And then I'm not really getting to the bats either. So Ober also kind of expensive. Like I think I would rather just eat the chalk with Sanchez or just play Pepio instead, even without accounting for the weather. So I agree this game's kind of a stay away for me.
Yeah, Ober's actually like right there with Sanchez too in terms of ownership. So another reason for me, if he's going to be like 25+% owned, like I'll just go away from him. Don't feel the need to risk it with Guardians necessarily. I just don't really want to play anybody from this game. All right, Kyle Montero taking on the Cardinals. Boy, has he struggled against lefties. It is a pitcher park. I believe the wind is blowing in. This is another spot where weather could be an issue. Yeah, wind's in from right at 15 miles per hour. This one should play, but possibly we get a long delay or cut short, so that there is risk involved. Don't really want Montero here. I guess you can make an argument just because the park and the wind's blowing in, but I think the Cardinals actually look okay here, starting from the left side. And the Tigers against Sonny Gray, they're a big no. I think the big thing with Sonny is not cheap, and there's major weather concerns here, and he's also carrying a ton of ownership, chalkiest pitcher of the slate. So, like, I do want to obviously get to Sonny Gray a good deal, but if he's going to be pushing 50% owned in a dicey game, I don't mind going way under on that.
Yeah, I see him. What is he projected for that I'm looking at? About 30%. So I'm kind of around even the field on that. Like 9K flat is okay. It's not a great pitching slate, like we've said. Like
Yeah.
you don't feel great about Castillo for 500 more. Don't feel great about Robbie Ray at 10K, Chris Bubich pushing 10K. So I think Gray between all of those is the best on the board. Like Detroit has some strikeouts in the lineup. Gray's been really good, and particularly from a strikeout standpoint against lefties, and the Tigers do have some good lefties in the lineup. So if that neutralizes that strength in their lineup, I'm okay with that. He hasn't been amazing overall. Like on better pitching side, I wouldn't really get, but this is what we're working with. As of now, I think he and Sanchez is my favorite pairing on the whole board, regardless of ownership. There are plenty of ways to get different with bats, depending on your field size. So I don't have an issue with Gray. The Tigers are using an opener and then Kiter Montero. I don't think that really affects them. I'm still not making the Cardinals a huge priority, but it is good offense. Montero's not an imposing pitcher. The lefties, again, are preferred here against the righty. But yeah, overall, like St. Louis is a middle of the road stack. I think Gray's one of the better pitchers on the board.
Yeah, I agree. It's just going to come down to how dicey is the weather. And because he's so owned, that's another reason why I don't mind going a little bit under there. But obviously, logically speaking, he looks good relative to the slate, because there just aren't that many good options. We do have a Coors game here. Christopher Sanchez taking on the Rockies. This, to me, is a very much play both sides situation. Obviously, Sanchez looks really good. He has a really high K rate. And the Rockies suck. So they also have a high strikeout rate collectively. They also have a lot of power, though. So there is concern here because he is walking righties and giving up some power to righties. And they have a lot of, at least speaking to what they have a lot of good righties. I mean, good is a relative term. But the Rockies do honestly look pretty good here. Nice leverage stack on Sanchez. I would imagine because he's going to be pretty owned that they will not. Certainly less owned than they normally would be. And then you have the Phillies on the other side against Kyle Freeland. I don't have anything good to say about Kyle Freeland. The Phillies have the best projection of the entire slate. I suppose you could make a case for just going away from the Phillies just because that's going to be the highest owned stack of the entire slate. And because the pitching is not amazing, people will just kind of, go cheaper at pitching at both slots possibly to go get Philadelphia. But as it stands, both offenses are viable, and Philly does look like the best offense tonight.
Yeah, Philly and Coors, obviously that's the top overall stack on the slate if you can afford it, but not the perfect spot. Like Freeland is not horrible. He's somewhat respectable against his fellow lefties. The Phillies' two best hitters, Schwarber and Harper, are left-handed. They both hit lefties decently well, so it's not the scariest spot, and I'm still fine getting to them if you can afford it, but it's not an ideal spot. And then the Phillies' righties, like Turner, Castellanos, you feel decent about. Real Muto because he's catcher, but beyond that, like Bohm, Sosa, Wilson, and Rojas is a pretty underwhelming bottom of the order. So they're the top stack on the slate. They have the highest total. The Rockies bullpen is horrible behind Freeland, but I'm not getting to them a ton relative to the field. I still will have them. I just don't know if I'll have them a ton. Like there are a lot of good high-end offenses on the slate. Sanchez, that's chalk. As of now, it looks like I'm going to eat. Just underpriced. Like on FanDuel, he's 9.9, and that's more of a conversation than on DK where he's 8K flat. In terms of the numbers, he's maybe the best pitcher on the slate, and he's 8K, and he's facing Colorado. The only thing going against him is the ballpark, of course, which is a big thing for a sinker baller in Coors who has kind of underwhelming career numbers against righties. So I think a Rocky stack is viable, especially in large field. But for me, I think I'm just going to eat the Sanchez chalk.
Yeah, because the thing there's like the Rockies do look appealing, but like if you're not playing Sanchez, what else are you doing that you feel like way better about?
Right.
So that's why I know. That's why I do agree. Like as long as the weather thing is not an issue, like Sonny and Sanchez together probably is the best pairing. I'm still going to get some Rockies. I will also say, just to play devil's advocate, like you're kind of alluding to here, like Freeland, at least this year, not walking anybody. He's not giving up egregious power. He's inducing ground balls. Like all of this doesn't look great. Also, this is a little bit noisy, but the Phillies just continuously just suck whenever they're chalky. You know, like I don't know what it is about the Phillies, but every single time they are a smash stack, I play them and they get like 3 runs, maybe if I'm lucky. So it is still the Phillies in Coors. They look great, but I don't mind going under. Also, by the way, because there's a lot of other good options in my opinion. We got the Royals in the Bay Area taking on the Giants. Chris Bubich taking on San Francisco. They have a solid collective ISO here. There are some strikeouts here. He is really expensive, but it's not a good slate, so I don't mind him. If you have the funds to go get him and you're not going to be stacking up the Phillies, it's there. It's viable. Same with Robbie Ray. Royals do not strike out really, but both these guys are going to benefit from the pitcher's park. So I don't have a problem with it. Not excited to get to either offense. So I don't want to pay 10K for Robbie Ray, but both him and Chris do look solid relative to the slate.
Yeah, if you have all the money to spend, certainly they're the best options. Ray's been really good, but we know the thing with Robbie Ray is whenever he's chalk, you stack against him. Whenever he's not, you play him. I am curious to see where it lands tonight because he is the most expensive pitcher. We have Coors to pay up for. There are other offenses, the Dodgers, etc. So I don't really think he's going to be super chalky. So I'm fine with getting to him. Like it's pretty easy to do with cheaper stacks like Seattle and Tampa Bay, Milwaukee, stuff like that. Bubich is fine. I'm not really getting to the bats here either. Like they're essentially the same pitcher. Bubich has a pretty good reverse split, which helps them a lot against righties. So San Francisco, while a good offense, they are pretty righty heavy against him. So that actually favors the pitcher. They're kind of similar. Like I slightly prefer Ray, but it's not a huge lean either way. Pairing him is tough and probably not something I'll do. Like I think I'm much more likely to just pay up one spot, pay down the other pitching spot. But then the bats, I just don't really see the need. I don't really think either pitcher is going to be like a mega chalk. So I'm not really getting leverage by playing an offense in a bad hitter's park. Kind of just pitching or nothing for me here.
I mean, like if you ate the chalky pitching, well, like Sonny is like mega chalk for this slate, and then all the other guys, there's like the best options are kind of split, like 18 to 25%. So it's like the SP2 ownership is kind of irrelevant in my opinion. And then after that, if maybe you fade the Phillies or just do like a different iteration of the Phillies lineup that maybe isn't going to be as owned, like that's probably going to be enough to get you different. And then your secondary stack just needs to be somebody that isn't like mega chalk. But yeah, I definitely favor the pitching in this game. And if it means anything, Bubich is like going to be half as owned as Robbie Ray. So, I mean, I think that would be my lean. He's got the higher upside in terms of just, splits and the strikeout matchup here, but both are viable. We got 2 more games here. Athletics hosting the Angels in Sacramento. Jose Soriano taking on the Athletics here. He does have the ability to get some whiffs, not really giving up a ton of power on the year. So that's a little disconcerting going up against an offense that relies heavily on their power. I do still like the Athletics. They got a high implied run total. Soriano can walk a lot and give up contact. So the Athletics still grade out pretty nicely. I don't mind Soriano as like a cheap option if you want to do that and possibly leverage the Athletics who might carry some ownership. Then you have JT. Is it Ginn or it's Ginn, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. JT again taking on the Halos.
I don't know.
Halos are always an offense we can attack just because they do strike out a good deal, but they also have power, and it's a hitter's park. So I like the Halos and the Athletics quite a bit. I prefer the Athletics, and if I did use a pitcher here, it'd be Soriano, but I'm not super excited to play him even.
Yeah, Ginn has been limited. He was limited in his first start off the injured list, like 60-something pitches. So probably still limited again tonight. He might garner some ownership, and I think it's kind of bad. I don't think I'd be playing him. Soriano, I'd be more inclined to play just because I think he's probably a better pitcher overall, even though the matchup's a bit worse. But mainly it's the bats here for me. I think the Athletics and even the Angels, just because the Angels are cheap, are a pretty good stack. It is a good park for hitting, good park for power in particular. And I'm just not really scared of the matchup against either of these starters. The Angels bullpen is a nightmare behind Soriano. So the A's are going to be more owned, rightfully so. I think even it's not like necessary, but like stacking the game together, I think is even okay just because you get your more expensive A's and then your cheaper Angels together.
Yeah, they're both coming in with really nice implied run totals here. Athletics leading the way with 5.09. So I do lean Athletics, but I don't mind the Athletics or the Halos whatsoever. All right, last game of the night, we got Arizona in LA. Obviously, the Dodgers are always pretty dangerous at home. 206 collective ISO against righties. They don't strike out. They get on base. They have a lot of power. Sorry, Brandon Pfaadt. It's going to be a bad night. Dodgers have one of the highest implied run totals of the night, and they are the Dodgers. So if you want to play them, especially on a night with Coors bats, like they're not going to be unowned, but they're going to be a little bit less owned than they normally would be in a good spot. Pfaadt, I don't think is a terrible pitcher, but his numbers aren't good, and it's a bad road game against the most stacked offense in the league. Then you have Landon Knack taking on Arizona, who are also really good. They are going to give you a little bit more strikeouts, but that's kind of boosted by Jordan Lawler in the lineup here, so I wouldn't really read too much into that. So really, actually, their strikeouts are non-existent. And they also get on base, and they also have power. So as you can guess, this is an offense-only situation. I like them both quite a bit. I think I like Arizona a little bit more just because with Coors and the Dodgers and some of these other offenses we were talking about, I think Arizona, weirdly, might go a little bit overlooked.
Yeah, I think both look good. Certainly the Dodgers, well, both of them kind of look good every single day. I have a slight lean to the Dodgers. I just have a bit more respect for the LA bullpen than the Arizona one. And, Knack against lefties has actually been pretty good from a strikeout standpoint. I think the sample size is small enough to be a little bit skeptical of that, but he was better against lefties last year as well. Arizona's pretty lefty heavy. The righties are not amazing, like Gurriel, Suarez is good, Moreno. It's not the deepest pool of great right-handed power bats to throw to him. So I would lean LA here. Obviously, they're more expensive. They're the better team overall. Lefties against Pfaadt, certainly a thing. So Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy, Edman, Rushing, Conforto, Kim, they can throw a ton of lefties at him. And that stacks up really well. So certainly the Dodgers look good. Arizona, to a lesser extent, still looks good. Definitely bats only, though, in this game.
Yep, fully agreed. All right, that's going to do it for our game-by-game breakdown here. Let's wrap it up with your top pitcher to build around and your favorite non-Coors stack.
Top pitcher is going to be Sanchez. I just think he's woefully underpriced, even though he's going to be heavy chalk. He's 8K. Even though it's Coors, he's still one of the better pitchers on the board. Colorado's still Colorado. Stack non-Coors would be Tampa Bay. I just think the salaries line up well. The matchup is good against an inexperienced starter. Houston's bullpen's not what it used to be either. And then the Rays have some pretty cheap right-handed power bats. So I love Tampa Bay tonight. I think ownership considered, they're probably my favorite stack on the slate.
Yeah, I like the Sanchez call. I don't think I'm going to really go away from that, especially since his ownership is not crazy like it probably should be. He probably has the best ceiling of anybody on this slate. Not really saying that much, but it's still reality. I also like Luis Castillo a lot more than I think the field is going to like him just because he's hard to trust and he's really expensive. But, I mean, a matchup with the White Sox in a cold game, that sounds pretty good to me. As far as offenses, like I think all the usual suspects here look really good. Just to recap, Dodgers, Athletics, Arizona. I love the Rays call. And then Coors. That should be where we're going for the most part. But one other offense that we touched on that I really like that's just going to be kind of unowned compared to these other options is going to be Baltimore. I think they look great here against Quinn Priester. Eventually, they are going to start popping off again and getting it going. And even if it's for just one night, I think the Orioles look really good. All right, that is going to do it for us. Hopefully this helps you out. The goal is to help you win. Hopefully that happens tonight for you and everyone involved. If we did anything that helps you out here, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider hitting up our Patreon. Just $5.99 for the month to get access to all of our picks and, of course, our Discord. Thanks for watching, and good luck.